early in the first quarter of 2020. And then the COVID disruption hits and we're like, okay, you know what? We'd better do this right. And that's because all investors went into fear. They went from greed to fear and they went, oh my God, what's going on? And we had to make sense, and we had to recognize that our slow growth model was a slow growth model. And what it was simply trying to build systems is fine, but it takes forever. And we had like, I don't know, $40+ million worth of quoted systems sitting there of people. Yeah, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to buy a system. And they would take years to come around. And so we had this big asset that had drained all the staff time to build, but it wasn't being monetized. And that's when we went, wait a minute. Eventually we had this realization, it must have been about 11 at night somewhere in March, when we realized it's the money, stupid. What if we made it so that all they had to do was sign a piece of paper and we charge by the gallon? So like Microsoft charges us for Microsoft Office, but in this case, literally every gallon has a bill attached to it. What if we did water as a service? And it was an epiphany. It was like, my gosh. And our ability to raise money as a penny stock turned into a real asset because we know how to do it. And so now we began to work on what we now call water on demand, which is basically a water as a managed service. And that is what we've started to roll out finally. And what's weird is that our base business, the one that was so just constipated, has actually blown up as well. It's totally ironic. And it, we're sitting in a great place with that. So the basic business has finally taken off, but we still don't feel it's enough. Now, water on demand is great because it's a pure money play. If I've got the capital, because it requires capital to build the systems, to put them out on a service contract. Well, if I've got that ability, then I don't have to just rely on my center in Texas. I can give the job to an Atlanta water company or anybody else because I'm the entity that's actually doing the capital side and billing and returning monthly annuities and so forth. So I think it's an exceptionally strong model, and we're easing into it by raising the capital for it and learning how to do that managed services, which is very high tech, right? And of course, I'm in my element there. Now, the water industry knows water as a service. It's an obvious thing, but they've always done it for very large installations, like desalination for an entire island. Nobody's been doing it for local businesses. So $250,000, $500,000, $1 million systems, nobody has done them as a service. There's one small private company that does a good job of that. But aside from that, it's been kind of a wasteland, primarily because the big water companies is too small for them, right? And there we get into the problem of legacy companies like American Water Works, Veolia, et cetera, that are wedded to these big, high-ticket municipal deals. And they're kind of being caught unawares, I think, with the migration towards these small, local, cut-the-cord type operations that are being built today. Anyway, that's what's super exciting. And then, of course, there was that icing on the cake with the coin, which is a whole other story.
More into layman's terms, I guess, as far as like what I'm trying to catch what it is that you do with the clean water. If you could break it down a little bit more for me.
Well, it's dirty water, right? So this is wastewater treatment. Remember that 80% of all sewage created in the world is not treated. It's dumped untreated. Now, that's not true in the US. We treat most of our water, but in places like Bangladesh, it's just dumped. And so we got to fix the clean. We got to clean the water. So let's say you're a brewery and you're pushing out a lot of beer water, beer effluent, and local city won't take your water anymore. This is very common these days. What do? You better start treating it yourself. You can't just dump it in the local river. And so that is creating an opportunity. There's housing subdivisions that are, because more and more rural developments happening, they are disconnected from sewage. We just fixed a trailer park problem in Alabama where they just could not, the city would just not let them connect to the sewage. Just not going to happen. Well, what are you going to do? You got the poop coming out. And so that is what's happening throughout America and I believe the world, but we're really focusing on North America right now, is to make it possible for people to who have a business to treat the water. And that's where the financing comes in. Because if I'm a brewer, I'm capitalized to make beer and I make money from beer. I'm not capitalized to spend $500,000 on a water system. But if you tell me, Riggs, I would like to treat my water, and I hand you a 15-year service contract, you'll sign it. Problem goes away. You'll pay more for that water system. It's very profitable for the water company, but you'll be happy. The problem is taken care of, and you're only paying for the water if it's properly treated. So it's a win-win all around. And that is the future of water treatment in this country, and I hope the world.
For a 50-year contract?
15, 1-5. 50,
1-5.
These systems can last 50 or 100 years, but realistically, contracts, these water, it's like these solar power purchase agreements, they are water purchase agreements. And these things are typically in the 15-year range. You're not going to ask a business to sign a longer contract than that.
Okay, now if somebody could purchase a water system, they were just overcapitalized and they're like, yeah, we're just going to purchase our own $500,000 water system. They could do that.
You see, what's happening is water is going from a career that I'm in the water industry and I treat water to I've got a business and I got this water problem. Well, that means I just need a black box that's serviced that just takes care of the problem. I'm not making water my business. And so that is really a sea change in water where people just need the problem to go away. And it's been identified by a number of think tanks in the water industry that this is the new trend. But the funny thing is very few people like you even know that this is going on. Many people assume like, well, you know what, the city's taking care of stuff, but increasingly it's not.
So how much money would you make off a contract for 15 years compared to just letting them buy it outright?
A $20 million water equipment fund, such as we're building right now, generates over 25 years, $500 million in revenues and pushes about $135 million to the bottom line for us. That is better than selling $20 million worth of equipment. So the annuity is what's important, and Wall Street loves these long life cycles, right? So it's very good. We have an ambition to get on the NASDAQ. Here's what's great. When we put these machines out to work, they remain ours. They remain our asset. And NASDAQ wants to see assets. Well, you end up with that $20 million equipment fund that's generating the revenue. This $20 million worth of assets that you still own. And the beauty of it is ours are modular. They roll in, roll out. If the client stops paying, we just take it back. So it's more of a rent-to-center model, which is what we do with everything. It's what we do with, renting offices. It's what we do with software. It's really the way things should be done. And it's what you expect to do with a municipality. You expect to just pay on the meter. The problem is the municipality increasingly is not doing its job, and now it's dropping down to where you're doing it yourself. We're creating, in a way, micro utilities.
Now, are you seeing similarities between the internet and what's going on with cryptocurrency now?
So here's what I believe is happening. We know that the finance system is pretty wrecked and getting worse. The US dollar, I think, is going to continue to be in trouble. But because we've got a parallel universe of cryptocurrency that's being built out, I think we will avoid the worst of the hyperinflation. We will not end up, in my opinion, with a Weimar-style hyperinflation. Why? Because increasingly people, businesses, and investors will take refuge in crypto and just come out. I'm going to pull out a couple pieces of fractions of Bitcoin and pay the rent this month. This was happening in Venezuela right now. They're surviving with crypto, right? So more and more, it's going to be I think a life jacket without a currency being an honest currency. And isn't it ironic that Bitcoin is an honest currency? But it is, because it's limited. It's got all these safeguards that it's actually got more long-term value. So what I think is that you're right. It is like the internet was to the legacy world of telephone systems and so forth. It takes money, it abstracts money out into something that is virtual. Let's take, well, I tried doing a coin back in 2018. It didn't work. Why? Because at the time we couldn't figure out how to attach value to a gallon of water. Well, now that we have water as a managed service, every gallon is monetized, and now we can start trading that, and eventually you get a market. Now, it's going to take time. It's not something that happens overnight, and it's certainly not core to our business model today. But I believe strongly that water deserves to have a marketplace. Because think about it. There is no global water marketplace because water is local. You're not going to carry your water from Atlanta to New York. It's too expensive. But that also means, because there's a lack of a marketplace, if you're stuck with really high water rates in Sonoma County, you can't hedge your bets with Singapore water. There's no way to buy options and whatever, right? So in the future, I believe that a water marketplace can occur, but it's going to be a digital marketplace, and it's going to be, I believe, on the crypto layer. So that is where things are going, and I think it's going to be very healthy for water consumers all over the world.
The technology of blockchain, you're more interested in creating a marketplace for water coin or water in general. Is that fair to say? Or
that's fair to say. Basically, it's a dual token environment. One is a simple wrapper for those monetized gallons. That's called $H2O, and that's a pure investment product. And on the other side, we have something called Clear Aqua, which is a community coin that anybody can own, and they can make small amounts of money by, alerting, hey, guess what? There's a problem in Fort Lauderdale with a sewage, whatever. And they send the alert up, and then the alert turns into a proposal at a higher level and eventually becomes funded. So our idea is, so many people want to help with water and they have a limited set of options. And this is a way to get everybody involved. It's kind of kumbaya, but at the end of the day, participation is key. People need to feel that they can have a say in what happens to the quality of water in the world. More people die from water than war, and there's all kinds of bad stats. Well, now you can do something about it. So it's a good futurist kind of thing. I run it entirely out of my office. I don't want to distract anybody in my company with it, because it's real, but it doesn't have applicability yet to our business. So we're making the investment, but really where we're at is this managed services for water today.
Was there a point with crypto that you realized that this was something that's going to have a long-term stay, kind of based off of your past experiences?
I had this epiphany when a friend of mine, Alex Lightman, who's a big influencer, he turned me on to Bitcoin. So it's these alternate coins in fall of 2017. And I put some money in one of them, and the money quadrupled. I'm like, what's this all about? It just kind of went nuts, right? And I realized that there's something going on here. And the more I got into it, the more I realized it had potential. So my realization in 2017 propelled me to do a coin way too early in 2018 called WaterChain. And but it was, that was our MySpace. That was our learning experience. And now hopefully we're doing the next generation.
I wish you nothing but success. I had a really great conversation with you. Thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure, Nick. Thank you. And Jason, stay cool. And I look forward to seeing this come out.